This is Valley News Live at 5.
We begin with breaking news. There's been another armed robbery at Casey's store, this time at 204 42nd Street South. It's just in the general area around Corwin Honda. What we know at this time is it happened about an hour ago. Police have set up a perimeter. Police say the area between the 200 and 900 block of 42nd Street South is closed. The other, when I made reference to the other Casey's, it was just a couple of weeks ago that a Casey's on 25th, just south of I-94, was robbed. In that case, a gentleman was arrested in that case, and he sits in the Cass County Jail this afternoon. Regarding this armed robbery, we'll share any updates as we get them on our website at valleynewslive.com. Law enforcement agencies were busy over the weekend responding to hundreds of crashes on both sides of the Red River, blamed in part to icy conditions. Valley News Team JC Dodd tells us more. She joins us live from I-94 on this story. JC?
Yeah, Mike, thankfully none of those weekend crashes were fatal. The North Dakota Highway Patrol responded to nearly 30 in the southeast region of the state, 60 statewide. Across the river in Minnesota, where I am now, more than 200 crashes, several dozen of them being in the northwest region. Now, Minnesota State Patrol Sergeant Jesse Graybo says I-94 was extremely busy, but consistent with the number of crashes during the first snowfall of years past. He says as people remember how to drive in slick conditions, they also need to remember to move over and give space for emergency responders to do their job.
There's no excuse. There is truly no excuse. And we want to go home to our families too, just like anybody else. So please, 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 I can't say it enough. Move over and slow down.
This after a Clay County deputy's car was hit while he was responding to a different car crash just 2 miles east of where I'm standing now. We'll have more on this tonight on Valley News Live at 6.
Thanks so much, JC. Tonight on Valley News Live at 6, you'll hear from law enforcement on the consequences you could face for not pulling over for an oncoming emergency vehicle. While most of our roads, highways, and interstates have been cleared off of the snow, they're still wet and you need to continue to take it easy. Let's go to Hutch for the latest on the warmer conditions, especially out west. Hutch?
Thanks so much, Mike. Good evening, everyone. As we glide through the 5 o'clock hour, we start the work week with a little less snowfall as we saw this weekend, and this squirrel here gathering a few peanuts to make it through the long winter season. Thanks, Sherry, for your photo. It looks like a bundt cake on this table out in Dorothy. If you've ever ventured through there, they had some shovel trouble this weekend, as did this beautiful scene here. Helen taking a shot of those vintage wagon wheels out there. Well, it does look like we have a little bit of everything in the forecast, but the main concern for me is going to be the overnight wind and fog as we look in on a quiet sunset right now at the Dakota Magic Casino. Can see underneath that layer of clouds that sun setting. Here is a look at those temperatures. Woo-wee! Temperatures near 30 for most of us to the north and east of this freezing line on Hutch's map. But take a look at the big picture. You see, oh my, it's near 60 degrees out in the Rapid City area and in Hettinger, where they've enjoyed some banana and tropical type weather. Temperatures tonight are going to be slowly rising. South wind will increase, and we do have that chance of fog as we go into the daybreak hours. I'll have hour by hour details on who sees wind, who sees fog, and who sees flakes or showers here in a moment.
All right, thanks, Hutch. A woman has been sentenced to 45 months in prison for a string of violent robberies in Fargo. 20-year-old Harley Josette Haugen will also serve 3 years of supervised release. It was back in 2019 she and 21-year-old Jordan Kraft conspired with a group of people to rob customers for commercial sex. Investigators say that they posted advertisements on Skip the Games, which promotes prostitution with women. They arranged to meet with the victims and used weapons to rob them. The manhunt for the person who police say forced a woman to drive to a bank at gunpoint to withdraw money for him at an ATM is over. Sheikh Mohammed Abdali was arrested last week. Authorities say on October 19th, the woman told officers that Abdali went up to her car with a gun and told her to take him to the Gate City Bank in Moorhead. He told her to withdraw some money so he could use it for rent, but she was unsuccessful. She says he eventually got out of her car but threatened to kill her if she called authorities. If convicted, he faces up to 25 years in prison. Happening right now, Fargo City Commissioners are going to consider ending a wildlife management program that allows bow hunters to kill deer within city limits. Police Chief Dave Zabolski says that a recent study shows that harvest rates are low, the plan is no longer effective, and it's created a public safety threat. He's going to ask commission leaders to eliminate the program. The hunt started more than 15 years ago in several city parks along the Red River after complaints over the growing number of deer in the city. The police chief says that the hunt is time-consuming for his officers who manage it. The meeting is underway. We're streaming it on our website at valleynewslive.com. Meanwhile, the public will get its chance to talk to Crookston leaders tonight regarding what to do with a right turn lane on westbound Robert Street. That's where 10-year-old Kaylee Acevedo was hit by a semi and seriously injured in early October. The State Department of Transportation is planning to remove the turn lane, and parking spaces have been removed for near that intersection to allow for wider turns in the area. Tonight's hearing starts at 6 p.m. at the Crookston City Hall chambers. We'll have an update for you on Valley News Live at 10. After 2 weeks of testimony and evidence, the jury is listening to closing arguments in the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, the teenager who shot and killed 2 people and wounded a third during a Black Lives Matter protest. The teenager says he fired in self-defense. Today, prosecutors called it murder. Jay Gray reports from Kenosha with the very latest.
I think it's no surprise.
Referring to the shootings as murder, reviewing testimony, and replaying videos from that night, prosecutors take their last turn with the jury.
There is no valid self-defense claim.
They say Kyle Rittenhouse provoked the violence by raising his weapon and pointing it at protesters the night he shot and killed 2 men and wounded a third.
When the defendant provokes the incident, he loses the right to self-defense.
The defense, relying heavily on video as well, says that Rittenhouse was chased down, ambushed, and had no choice but to use his weapon.
He was there, he was causing trouble, he was a rioter, and my client had to deal with him that night alone.
So, after 2 weeks that included Rittenhouse apparently breaking down on the witness stand.
Yeah, that's absolutely untrue. There's no.
Verbal sparring between the judge and prosecutors and dozens of hours of testimony. It's now the jury's turn to talk, with this small town and the nation anxiously waiting to hear what they have to say.
And there are a handful of protesters that have gathered outside the courthouse that could grow, and they could be joined by 500 National Guard troops who are on standby. Former Trump advisor Steve Bannon appeared in federal court today after surrendering himself to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He was indicted on Friday on 2 counts of contempt of Congress. Bannon had refused to comply with a subpoena from the House committee investigating the January 6th Capitol insurrection. He isn't being detained until trial, but he has to give the court weekly check-ins, surrender his passport, and provide details on any travel outside of Washington, D.C. If convicted, he faces up to a year in jail for each of the 2 counts against him. Around 250 more Afghan refugees are expected to arrive in the state of Minnesota in the next 3 weeks. The International Institute of Minnesota says that the Afghan refugees who will be placed soon are those who arrived at U.S. military bases in early September. They have completed health and security clearances. The Institute has already resettled 250 Afghans, and now they're tasked with resettling that same number in a much shorter time frame, less than a month. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison says that he'll seek a second term. Ellison, who made the announcement today, led the prosecution team that won the conviction of ex-officer Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. Ellison is Minnesota's first black attorney general. He also is the first Muslim elected to Congress, a job he left in 2018. Stay with us. Later on Valley News Live at 5, how inflation is threatening to derail President Biden's agenda.
And those 60s out to the west brought to us by a warm front that's heading our way, but it will be followed up by the slap of a cold front. I'll have details on what you can expect. This was this morning in Grand Forks, cleaning up a little bit of snow. Zip, 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 zip. Kind of wish it went that fast. Your forecast right after this.